Ooh, where the hell is everybody?
Gonna take it
There
to
we
the
are.
Twilight Zone.
I do not know how that happened, but anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters and welcome to the Retro Classic Movie Show. And of course, I have my amazing co-host, Mr. DJ Anubis, with us.
Are you sure? Because I thought you were going to go solo there for a minute.
Yeah, so did I. Then, of course, we have two amazing guests. We have Mr. Tony of the Dead and Mr. Sci-Fi Century.
Hi.
So how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good, man. Good.
Cool. So, anyway, as you know, this is my show where we talk about films anywhere from the 1970s up to the early 2000s. And today is my co-host's pick because we alternate from film every month. And this is his choice. And his choice is Reign of Fire. So, fire. So, Mr. DJ Anubis, what was it that made you pick this particular film?
One, I actually enjoy a lot of Christian Bale's films, but I mean, you've got dragons. I mean, it's fucking dragons. Like it's hard to find good dragon films. And Matthew McConaughey, of course, this is before I even saw the film. Like he's in it, so I'm like, just that one shot of him jumping in the air with the axe. I'm like, that's so badass. I have to see this film. I have to see this. And once I did, I was like in love with it. Like it's funny because it often gets forgotten a little bit because of it over the years. But like you said, we were behind the scenes. I went back and rewatched, and it didn't lose any of the luster it had. It still is great. We're gonna dive into talking about it, which is gonna be a lot of fun because there's a lot of cool things to talk about with this film.
Yeah. Tony the Dead, can you remember your first time seeing Reign of Fire?
When it first came out, I didn't go to the theater or anything, but I rented it again because dragons, and it looked awesome, and it is. So, yeah, it's a long time ago. I don't know where my copy is. I do have a DVD, but it's somewhere.
Yeah, Mr. Sci-Fi Century.
I saw it back. I didn't see it in the theater. I wasn't much of a theater goer at the time, but I probably saw it at home. I was still on, probably in 2003, maybe a year after it came out, and I was blown away by it, man. So yeah, I ended up buying it immediately on DVD, and I still had recorded it on VHS at the time, but. Yeah, it's just the dystopian feel of it, like kind of like Dragon Slayer without any wizards, just raw grit and using using everything at your disposal, like in such a like forsaken land. You know, that's what and like everybody said, dragons. Who doesn't love dragons? I mean, we all fucking love dragons. So
yeah. Like obviously way before Game of Thrones, which kind of brought huge popularity to dragons again. Back in the day, like I don't know, had the first Lord of the Rings dropped yet? I'm not quite sure, but back then fantasy really.
No, this is about a year before Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Well, wasn't the cartoons out though already? The Lord of the Rings.
Well, a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, the animated Lord of the Rings movie came out many years ago, but as you know, fantasy was kind of a dying genre really for a long time. Like no one was doing fantasy, and then Peter Jackson obviously took the risk with Lord of the Rings, which kind of brought it back to the forefront. But prior, like you say, we had Reign of Fire, and I always was fascinated with this film because of the fact it had the dragon element in it. Like you see, for me, it was like Mad Max with dragons. You were like in this dystopian world, which was the UK, which was based in Northumberland, which is basically not far from where I live. So seeing it and hearing the accent and seeing the land and the world that they had built around it, very, very much for me, fascinated me. So I do remember seeing this, not in theatres, but I think my friend rented this as soon as it came out and you were able to rent it. And I remember going around and being blown away by it. And you mentioned as well, DJ Anubis, one key element that blew this film out of the water wasn't just Christian Bale, but was Matthew McConaughey's performance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concept is cool because we've, and now that I think about it, like one of the things that we appreciate about stuff like Godzilla 2014 or -1 is that we take a real life scenario. So all of us right now, we live in our real world. And then what you do with Rain of Fire is you say, what happens if you enter mythology into that? Like they talk about at the beginning of the film when it's first discovered that a dragon is there. People just thought they were myths, but now we are dealing with the real fucking thing. And I find that concept, no matter what it is, to be very cool. Like that same thing with like Independence Day with aliens. Like you don't think they really exist. You just kind of guess, but then one day, boom, they're there and they're hostile. And, that's what's cool about this concept of this film is that it's put in a real life scenario. And I think it's funny too, because at the time it said this was 2002. I think they said by the time we get to the dystopian era, it's 2020. Thank God we're not. And although you could argue COVID was sort of like that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing is, I noticed with this movie as well after rewatching it is that we mentioned like the dystopian feel, but it also has like that wartime element to it. Like it's nitty, it's gritty, it's got the greys and the smoked out buildings, and everything looks dirty and covered in dust and ash, and it feels like they're living in a war zone, which technically they are with the dragons. So let's get into it. Reign of Fire is a 2002 American post-apocalyptic science fantasy film directed by Rob Bowman and starring Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale, Isabella Scorupco, and Gerard Butler. And the concept of this movie is as followed, like we've already mentioned. A brood of fire-breathing dragons emerges from the earth and begins setting everything ablaze, establishing dominance over the planet. And for me, this film started off with quite an interesting concept, but I also found it funny. So I really, really did. So it starts off, back in the day in London, England, where you have a young child who's basically after school is going to visit his mother, who works on a construction site around the London Underground. And I always found it hilarious how everybody around the construction site is walking around in high-vis gear, safety hats, all the safety gear, and he's in his school uniform and he just walks through the gate, walks into the construction, and he goes down a giant big fucking tunnel shaft. And like
and the guy sends him into the hole. But I was looking at that today. I was like, that would never happen, dude. They can't put a kid at risk. They don't even know what's back there. It's like, yeah, go ahead, crawl in there. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So obviously seeing it back in the day, I never thought. But now in 2025, when I watched this again, I thought, I'm actually seeing it's like a young kid in just his school uniforms going to visit his mother who's working the construction. If that happened today, they would put him in a hut or a tent and radio for his mother to come up to visit him. There's no way he would be able to just walk onto a construction site and go, especially in the mini elevator, and go down into the danger zone.
Well, at least without a hat, you'd have to put a hard hat on. You'd have to.
Yeah. And let's not forget about decontamination.
Yep. So,
well, I have a theory too with that. maybe because he's the boss's kid, they don't want to stop him too. You know, like he's
Well,
probably
but
gone there
they,
every day. They know who he is, and maybe she told them just let him go, or I don't know, because that one guy called her a
but the problem
bitch.
is that's like a OSHA violation. That's a serious violation to have,
Yeah.
because if something happens, like forget the dragon,
Oh, I know.
if
I get
something
that.
happens to where somebody gets hurt, that company's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I
if that
just
was
been
the
in
best
places
boss's
where,
son, though, they would take extra care of him. They would make sure he goes down in a fucking adult,
I mean,
a
it's a
lead,
minor
an
point, but
Iron Man
yeah.
suit to protect him.
yeah,
You know. So, but anyway, he ends up going down to visit his mother, who he's got like a letter from the school basically for the scholarship, and the scholarship is just a ridiculous amount of money. And the mother doesn't know she can afford it, so they kind of have like this heart to heart. He then wanders into the cave, and as he wanders into the cave, they come across this giant opening, which leads, I guess, to an even deeper cave. And there's a guy there who's working in the cave who's basically a disgruntled worker who basically just lets him wander in to this opening, and you can hear noises, you can see ash all over the place, and I'm sure you could see like remnants of like broken, I would say, dragon bones or shell.
I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was some sort of stalagmite cave thing, because some of it looked like it was rock, but then of course you get the body himself. Like we knew that was what he was touching was part of the dragon itself. So it's like,
Mhm.
you know, it was blending in. So I didn't think it was like another dragon down there, because you know it didn't look like it. Just looked like part of the cave.
Yeah. Well, I thought, because you do see later on in the film, you see the male basically cannibalize and eat one of the females because they're hungry, so they eat each other. Well, the male at least eats some of the females to feed on. So when I saw that bit, I also thought, well, could it be like the remains of something he's like one of the females that he's fed on to stay alive? But anyway,
Maybe.
what ends up happening is the male ends up firing a breath of fire, which this substance that hits him in the face. He then runs out, his eyes are all bloodshot because of whatever the saliva or chemical that's in his face. The mother then takes him to the elevator shaft to try and get him back up to get medical attention, and that's where all hell breaks loose. So basically, the elevator shaft like gets crumbled. There's like fire everywhere, and then you see the huge body of the male dragon climbing its way through the shaft till it eventually breaks out and leaves to basically terrorize London. But at the same time, because of the carnage that's went around and the burst of flames that went up to the elevator shaft, the mother's been fatally killed.
Did they ever even reference? Because obviously, the one that comes up through the shaft is a male.
Yeah.
But then they explained throughout the credits to start the movie that there were dozens of them. Like they're like populating like crazy. So like, where did the female come from? Because he had to mate with one of them.
I think once he woke up, the rest were going to wake up. That's how I take it. And then he only has to, they said like one pass over and he could like.
So it's probably like a Ghidorah thing. You just make some sort of call and they just start fucking coming out.
Also, like you seen the male leave the cave right at the beginning, but it's never like said. But females could have been in that cave that left after he woken. That's why, like I said to you, I assumed that there was more than one in the cave.
Could be.
Probably maybe further back in, but we never know. But because like look at the end, all those were in London. They had to be underground there. Of course, it's
well, they were by the time they got to that point, they were already breeding. Like apparently, they breed very fast.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like some had to be under there.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, but they never really reference where either one or more came from. It's like all they tell you is that once that happens, like all of a sudden we have a bunch of dragons in the air. I'm like, well, where'd all the other ones come from?
I mean, they probably had a den, they probably had a that's probably the lion, that's probably the dragon's den that's there that they just that's where because they remember they never left. They were always that's their main stronghold was where the male came out. So the male probably just that's his den, his domain. So he's like, yeah, I'm this. He can freaking fly anywhere he wants to, dude, and come back the same day. So he's like, he doesn't care. But I'm pretty sure there were more females there. They just like they said, like they outlived the dinosaurs and turned the dinosaurs to ash. So they, so I think they were more. I think, just in my opinion, the dragons were more evolved than that. But they just, I'm pretty sure they killed a lot of dinosaurs, but I don't think they just killed all the dinosaurs. They probably just there was an extinction event, and the dragons just found a way to evolve and found a way to survive. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a cool intro when the little boy, he sees his mom die, and then he goes back up, and that's when they do the intro of how the dragons took over and how they, the London itself and then the whole world try to fight him off, kill him. He's like, I think he mentioned we killed like 200 or 300 of them, 500, 600 would take their place.
Yep.
So it was like they were pretty much just overrun. They were overrun like within a span of years.
Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
also the reference that they even had tried nuclear weapons on them.
Yeah.
And certain areas of the world, they use nuclear weapons to try to eradicate them. But for every weapon they used, half a dozen more dragons would just appear. So basically, it was a desperate attempt to try and get rid of the dragons by using nuclear weapons, which obviously basically made the world
probably killing some of themselves because of the waste and everything.
Yeah, well, it's another way of creating, like you say, this utopian world, because wherever they've dropped these bombs, they will now be unlivable for hundreds of years and down the line. So it's like they could only do that so many times, because otherwise the world, even if they've managed to defeat the dragons, there's going to be so much of the earth that would have been left that would have been a wasteland because of the nuclear fallout.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is the film starts off with basically introduced to the character played by Christian Bale, who is the character of Quinn. And Quinn, he's not technically the leader, but he's just very protective of this community that they've built now up in Northumberland, which is way, way up north, way past London. So you've got Christian Bale, who plays Quinn. You have Gerard Butler there, who plays Creedy, and they're like they're not technically officially the leaders, but they virtually have become the leaders of this small community who he's trying to he's trying to protect the children. He's trying to protect the people. He's trying to protect this not far from the castle that they live in. They've got like fields or this little crop area where they're growing plants for harvesting for like the tough weather later on that year. And you've also got like other characters who, one of them had a wife and had lots of children, and he's only got a handful of his children left because of the dragon attack. And he, the beginning of the film, he really just wants to break away and get away and protect his family. But Quinn says it's the worst thing you can possibly do. The best thing to do is to stay with her. And as we know later on that day or that night, he does break away, this man with his family, and we'll actually see more of his children killed. And we'll actually see the dragons, well, one particular dragon, who we don't realise at that point is a female dragon, decides to, invade where they've got this huge harvest, and they basically lose probably 2/3 of the crops and plantation that they've made for the winter. And because of this, what happens, we later after that event, and Quinn's basically trying to keep the people at peace and explain to them, we need to just stay where we are, we're better off where we are. we are then introduced to Matthew McConaughey's character, who is called Denton
Zan.
Van Zandt, who he turns up with the American military like a montage of a handful of tanks, helicopter, and a handful of American soldiers who are left from battling for many, many months, you know, the dragons that have been invading the rest of the UK. As soon as he turns up, there's immediate tension between him and Quinn. And I wouldn't say there's necessarily a power struggle, but there's definitely like this kind of atmosphere and
there's a lot of dick waving. He's like, look, we could do this easy or we could do this real easy.
Well, you kind of it's also because I mean the dude is literally like almost obsessed with killing them.
Yeah.
Because like I understand you have to be that way to be, you know, to hunt down, you know, dragons, but what the hell is one like, you know, entourage of maybe 30, 40 people gonna do against millions, thousands of dragons? Like you kill maybe one or two a month. So that's like less than 0.01%.
Well, keep in mind, they have knowledge that they believe there is one male. This is the one reason why they're searching for London, is that they believe the one male exists. At least in theory.
Yeah. No, yeah, well, of course. I mean, I know to that, but still, like you're right. But the point is, like, this dude is like so, like, I mean, it's like his dick gets hard when he kills a dragon. So it's like, and that's the whole point. Where I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great portrayal of a character, you know, that's really like just determined to kill him, but he still have that part where he's like, oh, screw this shit, you know what, we're gonna do things my way or whatever. But that's where I understand that, you know, he's just so hell bent on killing them. You know, so but I mean, but great character though, man. All of them, like Quinn, dude. Like if it was me, like honestly, if it was a dystopian era and I'm not the leader, but I'm trying to take care of my own family, and some fucker comes in, you know, just waving his dick around, bro, I'm gonna shoot him straight there. I'm not gonna give him a chance to talk. Boom. Either you guys want food, or you guys want to survive, or you guys can keep going, man. Like, see, he says, "Are you lost?" That when he said that, I was like, that's. Say, what's up, Vince? That you lost? I was like, I'm like, yeah, dude. Like that's literally being just totally disrespectful. Because I would say the same shit. Like, you lost, bro. I've never seen you around, bro. You don't want to be around here, man.
Because sci-fi like, this isn't a fucking Exxon, dude. Just keep on walking.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed, like the way they both operate when it comes to Quinn, he witnessed the birth of the male dragon. And you also seen the death of his mother. So he's got like all their memories and the fear and the doubt. And he's very much like, I want to protect people. Where Van Daan, he basically has. That's what he's thinking. I've got like Jean-Claude Van Damme vibes where he has like a purpose for like vendetta against the dragon, because don't forget, he's probably came over from America on this mission, sent by like whoever his commanding officer was sent into the war zone. He's seen all of his friends killed by the dragons, and there's only a handful of them left, so he has real hatred and animosity towards the dragons in this shit show of a situation that he's been put in.
Well, you make a couple of great points, because that is sort of the difference. Like with Quinn, he's more fearful. Like he wants to basically rebuild the human population as much as he can, despite the losses. But Van Zandt, he's kind of like, as Century put it, you know, he's out for vengeance, but he's also he's looking at the long game. He knows that they need to wrap this up. They can't allow it to live like this. They will become extinct if they don't take care of the problem. And I know we're gonna get into like what they do and how they do it, but one of the more powerful moments for me with him is after their first showing of how they operate as dragon slayers, and everybody in the castle's dancing and celebrating. He comes up and you can just see the anger / sadness and the tears in his eyes, that he's like,
Yeah.
you didn't have to sacrifice people to dance tonight like we did. So you go on having fun, but this is not over. Like, we have a bigger plan in place, and you all think this is done. Like, we've beaten one dragon, as Sentry put it. It's like, you can kill 100 female dragons. It's not going to solve the problem. So, but I love that performance of that particular moment. It's like so powerful. I just love it.
Yeah. Like the look at his eyes, the tears in his eyes, the expression, the emotion that he showcased during that scene. You could feel his pain and his hurt, because it's like what I said before. They've killed, like, obviously, when the dragon shows up, he Van Zan decides to help them out and kills the one particular female dragon, and they feel like they've won the war, like Quinn, because it's like the first time they've ever seen a dragon get taken down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All the people who are frightened, the children, the women, he just wants to make them feel comfortable and at ease. And you see him telling stories. I particularly like the one where he's doing the play with Creedy, and he's basically he's referencing Star Wars. He's basically just doing Star Wars, but he's just trying to entertain the kids in such an apocalyptic world. But then you've got on the other side Van Zan, who he can't celebrate. He can't allow himself to let the walls down, because he knows how dangerous the world is, because he's faced it.
Yeah.
But it's because of this. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kevin. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I also wanted to add too. Like, I felt his pain also, like Van Zant. But what Van Zant, what I agree with all what you said. But I kind of like thought to myself, okay, well, I kind of thought I'm gonna think from Quinn's side point of view. And when Quinn, when he went over there, because he was kind of pissed when he saw that, and when he saw what Van Zandt had said, and I would have done the same thing. I would have said, look, motherfucker, you may be hunting dragons and shit. We've been living here where the fucking in ground zero. I'm helping them survive, and I understand your pain, but these people know nothing but living underground for fucking decades and years.
Yeah.
So you got to think about
that. He brought that up. He said, I buried hundreds here. So
yeah, exactly.
That's his rebuttal to Van Zandt. He's like, yeah, you lost 3 dudes, but I've buried like 100 fucking people here. Like, that's how it is with us.
Yeah, exactly. I get that too, because like, just let them have this. They never had this before. But I could see his point too. So yeah. But he has to understand, like, they've killed dinosaurs. They've killed dragons. They've never even thought one was like able to be killed. So this is a huge thing for them.
Yeah, they initially thought when he mentioned dragon hunting that they're like, yeah, right, okay, whatever. Because they've never seen it. They've never seen anything like it. So
yeah, and even the way they do dragon hunt, they basically set up the people who jump out the helicopter as bait.
Yeah.
So they know the risk they're taking.
Yeah.
And, they're basically diving into death.
Yeah.
They're like, so they know the risk. So I can understand from Van Zandt's point of view that, my people are dying for your safety. But at the same time, Quinn's like, the world's on its arse. There's only a handful of you. They've got all these kids, all these women. They need to protect them at all costs. And the kids have never seen a dragon get killed before, so I get them celebrating slightly. But this is the design of the dragons, which I think the dragons look phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
I think they did a great job. Obviously, even it's like 2025, but I still think the CGI is pretty good from
And I read that, like, for the the glands, like they base that off like a spitting cobra. So like they said, yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to use that kind of like spitting for the fire.
Hmm.
That shit turned out really cool. Like you can
Yeah.
see it actually happening in the movie.
Yeah,
So I really like those effects a lot.
The only
Mhm.
time I think the CGI was a little was the first person that got in the field. That looked a little dated, but all the other ones, like them flying around and him burning that whole line of cars, like that looked good. They all look good to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
if they like did another one of these, it could work out because it's more in the future. Maybe now that the dragons are all dead, they can use their insights for stuff kind of like Pacific Rim, you know, like this does this maybe, or maybe this cures whatever. And then like Independence Day, the second one where they have advancements, but yet they have advancements as well. Of course, it's dragons. They have to come back with like little scopes on and like robot arms and stuff.
Dragons with lasers attached to their head.
There you go. Yeah. Freaking laser beams.
Yeah.
Hunt dragons with dragons.
Did
Hunt dragons
you
with
know
dragons.
as well? I didn't know if you know he was uncredited, but there's that scene where you've got I don't know if it's after the dragon's killed or after the big massacre, like where the dragons destroy it. There's one little kid that stands out and he just looks up. He's got like the short blonde hair, and that's Jack Gleason, who actually grew up to play Joffrey in Game of Thrones.
Oh God.
So
Oh,
he had
wow.
a connection with dragons way back then, and then the fucker got poisoned because he was a little twat in Game of Thrones.
That is the only time in unison the world cheered for a death of a child.
Yes, well, he wasn't really a child; he was like a teenager. He was in his early
He's
90s.
still just getting his pubes in. So
Getting
that
his
guy,
pubes.
man, Joffrey. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about him, little bastard.
So,
I hated him.
You must have really liked him.
No, that
Still
ruined
got
his career
pubes.
too, because after that, he like everybody hated him because of that.
It ruined his career.
Yeah.
yeah.
One shitty role.
Well, he actually quit Game of Thrones because he went back to Ireland because he's Irish and he wanted to start his own theatre company.
Ah.
So
But he
the
doesn't act
money,
anymore,
the
though.
money that he made off of Game of Thrones, he put into his own local theatre company back in
That's
Ireland.
smart.
And so that's what he does. He does local plays, but I do think he has slowly started doing films again or making the odd cameo. Like I think the last thing he did like a cameo in like a local independent Irish movie. Because him who plays Chief O'Brien in Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Next Generation, who's also Irish, he was in the movie with him.
Oh.
So he is slowly kind of coming around, but I think also because of being so young and being put in such a massive role in like worldwide fame, I think it was, a bit too daunting for him.
Yeah.
So he kind of took a step back, but at least he didn't waste his fucking fortune. At least he's put it into something that he can probably work on for the rest of his career and life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next thing, what happens in the particular movie is Van Zandt decides, he's been too much of a nice guy. He's, his patience is up. He basically decides that he's told Quinn's, followers that he's basically going to go to London to find the male dragon because the females, not the female, but the helicopter pilot, Alec Jensen and Van Zandt kind of figured out that every dragon in the world is a female and there's one male that has all the eggs. And they've kind of put two and two together that the dragon is from London, and it was discovered in London, which Quinn immediately, I think, has this look on his face and he kind of knows exactly what they're talking about. And even Van Zandt, or it's either Van Zandt or Alex, the pilot, says you've seen it.
Alex sees him.
So yeah. So because she sees the look on his face of pure fear, and like, you know what we're talking about. You know this is true.
Have you ever
And
seen anybody? Have you ever seen anybody with so much anxiety in one fucking movie, dude? Like Quinn he's living anxiety, bro. Like he has to he's always like his eyes are always like this, or he's always like but right when Van Zandt and his crew came in, like always, dude. Like even when he's trying to be calm, he's always like remembering that traumatic episode. His PTSD is on a whole other level.
I think a big part of it is he feels guilt. I think he thinks he caused it all, and his mother's death and the destruction of the world. So that's part of the reason why I think he doesn't even want to go back to London. He's like, nope, just want to stay here, try to live and survive. That's it. I'm good.
It's like a lot of people who have PTSD and all of that. It's like sometimes they've got to go back to the place where it originated from to face the fears. Like you hear lots of stories of people from the war that'll travel back somewhere like Vietnam. They might go to somewhere and they find that inner peace. And basically what happens with Quinn is the kid that parents were killed at basically is like his adopted son, who we see throughout the course of the movie. He's been trying to protect him and be a father figure. He decides to go with Van Zandt, or so you believe. But then Quinn's like, you know what? If you decide to go, the decision's yours. You're a man now. But luckily, he doesn't end up going with Van Zandt. But the people who do go, one of them, of course, is the father of the children that were massacred in the fields. Yeah. And he's like, I've got nothing else to lose, and basically, so they end up going on the, on the tanks with the helicopter. They go on like the journey down to London or towards London, when suddenly that whole parade of tanks is suddenly ambushed by a female dragon. And literally, like you mentioned,
actually, that was the male. That was actually the male.
That was the male.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the male. Well,
I'm muted.
Well, the
I said
male.
that too.
So the male dragon virtually comes up from London. So I found that weird. So it makes me feel like he sensed. Like,
well,
he
they
must have
said
sensed.
he's setting us up. Because he's not stupid. He's pretty smart.
Yeah,
that's one thing with the dragons. Like they're not all completely dumb. They learn, But he's definitely smart.
Towards the end, he recognizes the crossbow. Like he knows that it's a weapon.
Yeah.
It's like I find that like very interesting how he travelled all the way up from London. So it makes me feel like if there was a prequel film, I would have seen maybe Van Zandt face off against him before and lose. And it would start off, the film would start off where he goes up to Quinn's castle.
Mm-hmm.
End of the film where he loses, because it makes me feel like the dragons met Van Zandt before. There's history there. It feels like there was history there. The fact that this male dragon came all the way up, because where I live in Newcastle, and it's not far from Northumberland, even to travel all the way up from London to Northumberland, it's quite a hike. It's not still a few hours.
Not in the air,
or a few hours in a car or a fucking tank. But like you see, a dragon, the speed of the flyer.
My impression was like, I can't say for sure, but I think they were still pretty far from the castle when it happened. I can't tell you how far they were, but I do think the impression I got was they were getting maybe halfway or so to London by the time that male dragon found him. Like it was just like a territorial thing, and he saw them coming and decided, I'm gonna light these bitches up.
Yeah, which he certainly did. He basically wiped out the whole caravan of fucking tanks and cars, and like everybody who was in a tank or who was in a car was instantly evaporated.
And how cool was the detail of the tanks, like the melted metal? That shit was so cool looking, like really great detail.
Mm-hmm. Was it ghoul looking? Did you say ghoul looking?
It's cool
You know,
looking.
it's and there's a part where we get to that part where the freaking caravan gets incinerated, and like even I just want to go back to what he said before, Van Zandt, when he first got to the castle. He said, I've been in here in Europe, and they put 800,000 miles on the tanks, the cars, everything, the freaking chopper that they had. I think they just salvaged stuff like
Yep.
from
Oh yeah.
yeah, they salvaged stuff from other parts where they were in London. Cause shit, dude, 800,000 miles, dude. Like that's freaking that's across. That's even more. Wait, that's even. I don't even think that's maybe a quarter of all of. No, maybe it's half a quarter of, or no, maybe that's half of London, England. Because London, I mean, the UK is smaller than Texas, so that's a lot. That's a lot of
Yeah.
freaking miles. That's a lot of
Well,
miles.
The entire UK can fit inside the state of Texas. That's how small we are.
Wow.
yeah, but
And
it's
that's-
like you have to worry about debris, building collapses, like alternative roads, like and avoiding dragons like the best you possibly can, because like they can't take on like more than one at a time. So
Mhm.
I'm sure they
And
were
then-
trying to be as subtle as possible as they were making their way to London. So they
But
probably
you
had to do
know-
a lot of mountain running and everything else.
Well, before I pass it back to Kevin, I was gonna say this, man. The look on his face when Alex was lucky enough to even get like the dragon passerby. When he has that look on his face and he says, "What happened to the soldiers?" He has their ashes in his hands and he just drops the ashes.
Yeah, that shit was cold, man. Like I was like,
Wow.
oh, that's
I
tough.
was like, holy.
The whole scene where the dragon just flew across all the tanks and you seen the fire breath, like the blast.
Oh.
That, because like I say, I haven't seen this film for ages, and I always go back to that scene in Game of Thrones where Jaime goes to attack, and the dragon Drogon goes across like all of the horse and cart that's got all the gold in that they've stolen from a castle, and it's the exact same sequence of the dragon flying across and just destroying everything in its wake. So I definitely feel is Reign of Fire inspired those particular scenes in Game of Thrones. Definitely think this film's definitely influenced and has got a massive legacy when it comes to dragons and certain scenes and aspects of how a dragon operates. Like you said, they use real life cobras for how they're going to spit the fire out. Just amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening next is, unfortunately, after they are basically wiped out by the dragons, by the male dragon then makes its way further up north to the castle where Quinn and his people live, and it just goes on an attack. And everyone, all the kids, all the women are taken down into the deepest depths of the castle to protect them. And Quinn and Creedy, Gerard Butler's character, are basically looking around the castle to see if there's any kids left, anybody who's vulnerable that needs assistance. And this is when they come across a couple of kids and take them down. Quinn wants to then make one more round to see if there's anybody else still vulnerable in the castle. When suddenly Creedy's like, no, let me go. And as he gets out the door, you just hear the thunder of the part of the castle crumbling, and like you just know what's happening, that the dragon's doing one more blast into the foundations of the castle, and the door slams shut with the force of the air that's been backdraft thanks to the power of the dragon, and Creedy is then wiped out. And Quinn is now locked behind this door with the kids and with the women. Powerful scenes, truly powerful, and it's heartbreaking to see. Basically, Quinn's lost like his best friend.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I
Then
didn't care.
the kid's crying, man.
I found him annoying in this movie.
Who?
The friend,
Creedy?
Gerard Butler. Yeah, I found him just trying to be too funny. Like, I don't think he could have even been in the movie and it wouldn't have mattered. Like, nobody cared about him. I cared about Quinn. The
Mm.
three main people at the end are the ones I cared about. And that's, I'm not trying to sound cold or anything. It's just watching this, I'm like, man, he's annoying. Like,
Well, I think
hello,
I think he
Thanos.
approached it differently because Quinn was more serious, so he's kind of like the guy that's trying to keep it a little bit lighter, and like because it's like just as Kevin was pointing out, after Creedy gets incinerated, Quinn loses his shit on the other side of the door. Like he is freaking the fuck out, but he realizes the kids are crying, so he has to get himself composed because otherwise they're going to give up. They're all looking at him to be the strong backbone. So I think Creedy was just the kind of guy that was trying to, whenever Quinn was overly serious or too stern, he's the guy's like,
He's
come
the
on,
comedy
man,
relief.
loosen up, be a good guy. Come on.
He was the comedy relief.
Well, you always have like that relationship with even like say the Avengers or whoever. You always have like in these team ups the serious character who's so moody and all about doom and gloom, and then you always have that one character that tries to lighten the mood.
Yeah,
some of them are actually written like that in the comic books, though. Like Spider-Man's sarcastic and stuff, so it works.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean, though. Yeah,
Sometimes
it works and sometimes it don't. I don't know.
Oh, sorry, no. The thing about that scene that I forgot about that scene, totally forgot about it. That's why I recorded some of it and put it on just that little shot, a little 45 seconds. That I forgot that when they say a prayer every single time they go to sleep, they always say a prayer, and like they're doused in water, so the heat in case the dragon attacks, they won't get burned. So they're all right there, and he's trying to compose himself to pray, but he can't spit the words out because he's so affected by Creedy's death that the other women there are have to do it for him, and the kids have to, like Kevin was saying, that he has to keep that mental strength going, even though he's at his wit's end, he's crushed. He still has to keep him going, and that part I totally forgot about. And I was like, damn, that's probably the most powerful scene in my mind for the movie. That when he's the kids crying, man, to me was kind of like, that was very like, it was heartbreaking, man. Like seeing the kids crying. But yeah, just to add what Kevin said, it's a powerful scene, and I totally forgot about that scene. That's how long I've been to this.
So what happens next is just when you think all is lost, Van Zan and Alex come to the rescue, and they manage to get back to the castle in one piece, or what's left of the castle, and they basically open the door that's jammed and get them free. And this is where you finally see a shift in Quinn, who now basically the castle's in ruins, the crops that were grown are in ruins, people have lost and died. How long can this continue? And he finally decides, I need to face my fears and go back to where it all began, and that is, I am going to go to London and I'm going to take on the mail, face my fears, and whether I live or die, I've got to try and do it, because he knows they cannot live like this anymore, this world. And like they say, they know there's one meal, there's an opportunity there to free the world, to free everyone from this basically hell. So that's when him, Quinn, Van Zan and Alex decide to get in that helicopter and fly down to London, but they're going to do it in a way that's the safest, because they say that there's a certain time of day where the dragon's senses and abilities is vulnerable, and it's like the twilight hour between day and night. And so they use this as an opportunity to get to London safely, and they park in the middle of the fucking Thames River on a barge in the helicopter, and then make the way onto land in the middle of London. And there's that excellent shot where they're like looking over at the sea. Is there any dragons? Is there any dragons? And they just see there's like hundreds of females flying around London. and then you get that excellent, amazing shot of the male, who then basically just latches onto a female dragon and starts ripping the fucking thing apart. And he's like, oh, they're like, they're feeding on each other because they're hungry, and just shows you how they're starving, they're desperate for food. Because, like you say, think about it. There's millions of dragons in this. In the UK, we have massive farmlands full of sheep, cows, pigs, you name it. But if there's millions of dragons and they've all hunted every bit of livestock out there, extinction, there's no food left for them.
Yeah.
So the only other option is to turn cannibal and to eat each other. But the females, I guess, won't attack the male because it's probably a natural instinct to allow the male to be free because he's going to sire the next, group of eggs.
Yeah, because if they kill him, they're
pretty interesting too, because normally when we deal with creatures like this or any creature, it's usually a role reversal. Usually it's the queen that's the biggest one, and it's just the males that are the ones that are around. But this case, it's actually the male that's the queen bee, basically, and the females are the ones that have to kind of scatter and be obedient or whatever whenever it wants to mate.
That was cool too when they were looking at the city at first, and you can't see, and then like they start moving their wings because it's like they blend in with the buildings. It looks like a point, and it's like actually their wing is folded over.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, like I see the shot where they look over at the sea where the dragons are, and it's just, you can see them like camouflaged into the buildings. You can see them flying round. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great shot.
This is where Van Zandt tells Quinn, right, we have an opportunity. I've got these darts that I've got. What were the darts made out of again?
They're like high explosive, kind of like Rambo.
Yeah,
basically.
I think it was TNT or maybe TNT probably, or what's that freaking word? I can't come up with it, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, but they're full of like high explosives on the tips of these darts, and if it hits the male, it'll just disintegrate his insides if they manage to like get it into his chest or down his throat. But there's only one problem. There's only, I think, 2 or 3 darts.
Yeah. So
they decide to do a plan where there will be 3 different points of the city where each member of the team, Alex, Van Zandt, and Quinn, would climb and target the male. And the male has a 6th sense because he knows they're there in the city. You wouldn't think, the only thing I found strange about this scene, you have that amazing scene prior where I said you see all the females camouflaged. Wouldn't you think if you mentioned, if it was the other way around and it was the queen and the queen was vulnerable, the male soldiers would hunt down anything they could sense that's going to be a threat to the queen. So it made it, the only thing I found bizarre was that the females didn't try to attack them.
Maybe they were just afraid because he was going to eat them.
Mm-hmm.
I think because he was about to eat them and they flew away, so maybe they just were like, fuck that, I'm not coming back.
Potentially, but I just thought, it would might have been a stronger finish if there was more than one dragon that was hunting them down. But what ends up happening is Van Zandt, he decides to be the bait and to try and get the male dragon. So Quinn's on one side, Alex is on the other. Van Zandt takes the risk and he climbs up these ladders to the top of like a giant part of a building, and the male spots him. So the male goes after him, and Van Damme does a Van Damme, as I like to say, and he goes, fuck this, I'm going to make the ultimate sacrifice. He shoots at the male, and I can't remember if he hit the male or he missed.
He blew fire, and it like blew up in front of him. It
it was kind of like a mixture of right when he was getting it close to his mouth, the dragon blew fire, and it kind of caught right between, not enough to kill it, It's kind of like sort of like the Godzilla -1 when they first were trying to explode the mines and stuff. It was like barely doing anything, but it caught it at the right moment. The dragon kind of protected
Like-
itself.
The thing, yeah, what I love about this shot, when you first see, you see it's like it's spraying like gasoline, and then the
Yep.
gasoline out of smoke turns into fire, which
Yeah,
I think
That's the napalm, right?
It's
yeah,
basically, yeah.
well, that's what he, as a
Nitro-
child, that's what he got sprayed in his face, the napalm mist, and that's why his eyes went all bloodshot.
Yeah.
They never said anything about that again. You think he would have like something wrong with his eyes? Like
Well, she
maybe
rinsed him out
even-
before, the dragon got out. But
Well,
Like,
true.
even if you look at that shot there and you look at the dragon, what you can see, it's the saliva dripping from the bottom of his jaw.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the glands. It's the glands from the. It's the glands that produce, because I think the nitro napalm that's produced is it's mass produced by its body, so they never run out. So it's mass produced by their something in their system, and they have the glands like a snake, like a viper, and they spread it out. They spit it out in one direction like this, and that's what ignites the flame.
Mm. But what ends up happening, because of, he targeted the male, and unfortunately his attempt fails. He knows he's a goner, so he decides to do the heroic thing, go, fuck it, I'm just gonna go for it. And he leaps off the building with this axe out of nowhere and goes for the male. But unfortunately, the male catches him and flies away. And you see that scene of him flying away with Van Zandt in his mouth, which was quite heartbreaking. Especially when Alex knows he's been captured, and she knows he's sacrificed himself for her in many ways. This leaves only Quinn and Alex, who then come up with a plan to get the final dart and target the male with the last arrow, which ends basically where she's like the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And just as, the male's about to come upon Quinn, he manages to fire the last dart and arrow directly down the male's throat, and his throat basically explodes.
Yeah.
Ending the male and ending the dragon threat. And then I think it skips to 6 months later, where Quinn and obviously Alex have now clearly are together. They're building some sort of antenna, and they suddenly get a radio transmission from France. So basically the world is slowly beginning to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now in a different mind space where he's now relaxed. There's like this inner peace, because he's faced his demons. He faced, the dragon that killed his mother. He's now overcome his fears, and he's now more relaxed and more open, and he's now going to try and build something with his life. And then his adopted son, who now seems to have more responsibility, is now going to be, I guess, co-factor leader of the tribe going forward.
Yeah.
Which ends the film on a positive note.
Now, you want to know, I was thinking about it while we were talking, how I think a cool ending would have been when he jumps off the tower. Maybe he gets on the back of the dragon and like it kicks him off and like throws him to something. Everybody thinks he's, out of it. And then Quinn gets the arrow in that. And then Van Zandt gets up on the something and does another jump, but lower, gets right into the dragon's throat and slides down. And then Quinn shoots the arrow in that. And then just in time, Van Zandt, of course, gets away. Boom. Van Zandt lives. And then the three of them survive to make it to another day. And I think that would be good. Because I think Van Zandt, the way he ended like that, I'm not muted, right? Okay. I just wish he had a better death. Like, it sucks that he died, but I think they should have let him like take an eye out or something at least,
Yeah, but I remember seeing the trailer, and one of the trailers is the leap with the axe.
Yeah, that's
I
the
was thinking
drawing.
there was going to be a lot more behind that than what we got in the trailer. It's like
Well, there
another.
is the rest of the movie.
No, I'm saying like
Actually, I think it fits more with what they did because the idea was that it really takes like a matter of luck to kill a dragon. So you think about how hard it was for them to take down the females, everything that was involved, and then to try to kill the male. Like even if Alex doesn't like distract that dragon for a hot second, that dragon probably lights fucking Bale's character up because he is done. He's still trying to fidget to get that arrow into the crossbow, and that dragon had him dead to rights. So when she comes skipping along, annoying it, shooting at it, like that kind of gives him that extra second that he needs to like load that thing up and then just fire. But it's really kind of just blind luck. So having Van Zant do like, sliding down its neck, it's cool in theory, but it doesn't match everything else that's going on with how these dragons are so dominant in this world space.
Well, you look at this, the dragon is cocky. Quinn finally learned to work with somebody else and trust him, and the other way around.
Well, I think there was like, because there is this moment after the male attacks the caravan overnight, and because Quinn warned him, he said, "You're going to bring that fucking thing back here," and that's exactly what happened. The dragon ends up going to the castle. So Van Zandt realized that he fucked up. He says, "You were right," and that's him being kind of humble is the best way he can be. A man with that much pride. So I think there was a mutual respect. I mean, I got what you're saying because like towards the end of the film, after everything's over, I'm saying to myself, it's too bad that Van Zandt couldn't have seen this happen and be happy that he succeeded because he's dead. He's gone. He has no idea that they succeeded. Yeah. So there is that like level of respect that I'm sure that Quinn and Alex wanted to see Van Zandt say, "Hey, we did it," but that just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, I knew soon as I knew that the three of them were the only three going to London. I kind of had an idea one of them was going to be sacrificed. Yeah. And back in my mind, I had the idea because I think, yes, I know Matthew McConaughey was like the co-star and the co-lead, but I always felt this was Quinn's story.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, I kind of had this idea once I knew three of them were going to London. If anyone was going to be the one that died or sacrificed themselves, for me, it made more sense it would be Van Zandt. Yeah. Because he was a war hero or a war veteran who just, all he had ever done was fight this war and all he wanted was it to come to an end for freedom. And for him sacrificing them the way he did, it was basically opening the door to allow Quinn to have time to pull himself together to eventually take on the meal, which is what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Well, I think he also wanted to do that because you can tell he felt freaking horrible because Quinn was right. And not only did Van Zandt's men freaking get, incinerated, 60 people from Quinn's castle also died because of his negligence, because of his pride. And I think to me that was kind of like a redemption arc that he said, well, he's not only redemption, but he says, you know what, if I'm going to go out my way, if I'm going to go out the way I want to go out. And because I would see for someone like Van Zandt, yeah, he can find peace when it's all over, but what is he going to do now? He's a dragon.
I got the feeling he's the kind of guy that despite everything being over, he's still got a lot of demons, so he'd still be looking for the next fight somewhere. So that's just kind of how I saw him. He wasn't the type of guy that I saw that was going to be settling down and pumping out kitties.
I think he would have been the guy that would volunteer to go to France at the end. And I'm going to take some people. We're going to see who's over this way. And
that'd be his kind of duty to go help rebuild, probably.
Yeah.
But obviously, this film, despite us enjoying it, financially, they don't consider it a success because there was talks of a sequel. So the budget was 60 million. It made 82.2 million at the box office. And Christian Bale has mentioned that if they had done a story, for the second one. He would have maybe been in the sequel in a cameo way, but he wouldn't have been the lead because he was the way the film was set up. It was set up for his stepson to be the lead,
Yeah.
which I could see working.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, the stepson basically was starting to gain responsibility and trust of Quinn. And like you see, Quinn had found his story was ended. He'd found his inner peace. He had found, he'd come full circle with his life and was going to settle down with that Alex. And basically, because he was a young man, his stepson was just about to start his journey. But there was no talks of what the sequel would have been about.
Dragons.
I'm assuming, yes, obviously, Mr. Tony. But I would imagine it would have done something where they found another, like a female, and she gave birth to an egg, and the egg was potentially the egg of a male. So they had to hunt it down before it hatched, so there wasn't a second male. Or because at the end of the day, the fact that one male's dead doesn't mean there isn't another male out there.
Yeah, it could be dormant. A bigger one that we never thought
They
before.
said that they laid a lot of eggs, so like it's kind of surprising there wasn't more than one male. Maybe there was, and they just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if a female knows that the male has passed, it has the ability to choose the sex of the egg.
Maybe.
Oh, there you go.
But but according to the legacy of this movie, the mechanisms that's it, of Dragon's fire breath in this movie inspired from biologically real-life creatures such as the anti-predator adaptation of Bombardler beetle, and poison glands of vipers was used in later works such as Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Gods of Egypt, and Game of Thrones. So the people who ever designed the biology of the dragons in this inspired all of those other movies. Now, Gods of Egypt is also quite an interesting movie if you've not seen that one.
I haven't.
I've seen it, I just didn't like it.
I haven't heard anything good about it, so. Jason's got a beard.
Right.
So, Mr. DJ Anubis, final thought on Ring of Fire.
Still a lot of fun. I love the fact that this movie doesn't drag on. It gets right into it and it just plows through it. It never like lets up, and you still get nice moments. Like we said, the performances by Bale and McConaughey in here at certain points are really great and spot on. Like I really love their acting and how they can show their dynamic range as actors, showing different emotions, and special effects are great. CGI is great. Like for a dragon movie, we talked about this some time ago about the dragons themselves and how great and real they looked. I thought that was, for 2002, that's actually quite an accomplishment. Consider how they fucked up Clash of the Titans remake like years later, which was a lot worse CGI wise. So the fact that they got it right here was a big plus.
Well, Anthony, I've put the link of the movie in the group chat. Get yourself and check it out. I'd like to know your opinion if you get to watch the full film.
Yep. But overall, I still consider this a 10 out of 10 for me. I still love this film so much.
Yeah. Tony.
It's been a long time since I've watched this. It's always one of those, like, I see it like somewhere and I'm like, oh, I could watch that right now, and then I never do. But it's always there. And when I heard these were going to talk about this, like, oh yeah, I want to watch that. I haven't seen in a while. And I would say there was like a lot of things I forgot, but there kind of was. Like I didn't remember like lines. I didn't remember who died and except that jump, But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good to rewatch it. I still really like it. Like I said, I find Gerard Butler kind of annoying in it. I love Van Zant's character. I even like Christian Bale's character in this because like he's usually kind of an asshole, in movies, and he was even like joking around about the kid that he had, adopt him and stuff. So his character was likable, very likable. A lot of likable characters, which is good. Like I said, the only CGI part that I didn't really like was the first time in the field when the dragon got him. It kind of looked like but I think the rest of the movie looked really good. The grittiness, it felt dystopian and also from the past. And but yet they have modern stuff, like they're cooking food and stuff, but yet they're in a castle. And it's kind of weird how like we not revolted, that the word, we ended up going backwards with
De-evolved.
technology and stuff. Yeah, we de-evolved and stuff. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's a very good movie. I hope they come out with this on like 4K or something and kind of clean up a little bit, but not too much. And I'd like to see interviews nowadays about it. But I would say for me, it's like an 8.5 out of 10. I really, really do like it though. And one thing Anubis and I did, was it Dragon Slayer or something? We were talking about the crawling through the cave. How this dragon snuck up on that castle crawling like that. And that is like one of the creepiest things, seeing a dragon crawling, because they look like, and then he got on the top and blew into the fire into the top. That was like,
that was
really,
cool.
really cool.
Really
So,
cool scene.
not cool at all, but it was cool.
Cool.
Just shows you how intelligent the meal is.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy it. I think Anthony should check it out.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. Sci-Fi Century.
I love this fucking movie. I love this movie, man. And
He doesn't just love it; he fucking loves it.
Fucking loves it.
Yeah, and it's like you guys said, dystopian, gritty, like using tooth and nail, using the freaking littlest thing in other words, just using anything and everything that's at your disposal, that's there, just to, like, I know that kind of grittiness, man. And Christian Bale, Matthew McConaughey, hey, and what do you call it? And I forgot the girl that played Alex, Gerard Butler, before he went. This is Sparta. It's it is to me a 10 out of 10, and I love the style of it. It's like Dragon Slayer, but without the magic and without the glamour and without the romance. I mean, the romance was there, but it was mostly at the end. But they didn't really show it. But it's just more about grittiness. It's more about grittiness. It's more about just doing what you have to do to survive. All survival, and that's what I loved about it. And a lot of the really touching moments, the heartbreaking moments with the children. It's like that's the kind of stuff that's that kind of movie that I love. Science fiction, but with the dystopian style. And yeah, I love it, man. Mad Max, bro, meets Dragon Slayer, but without the wand and wispiness. But yeah, I love the film. 10 out of 10.
For me, I really enjoyed this film. I've never seen it for a few years. I think I've probably seen it 2 or 3 times. So to see it years later down the line, it was a great watch, and I learned more about it this time, rewatching it this time. And what I feel like I've learned about it is, apart from, like we meant, it's nitty, it's gritty, it's a dystopian Mad Max type film with dragons, but it's also a war movie. Deep down, it has like that war feel to it, especially when you see the tanks destroyed and all the debris, and even when they get to London and you see all the destruction around, it feels like a war movie. And for me, it's the tale of 2 people during wartime. Like Matthew McConaughey, he's a soldier that wants to do anything to get the job done. He's slightly blind by his motivations to end this war by killing the dragons. Where you have on the other side of it a person who is scarred by war and scarred by battle and seeing the effects from a young age thanks to the death of his mother, and he wants to do everything but to protect them who are innocent, who don't have a choice but to be in the situation, and he'll do anything to protect them. And so I loved like that yin yang kind of personalities between the two leads, and the two different stories were like compelling, and how they both dealt with like a situation in this dark war that featured dragons. So for me, I liked it, and I agree with Tony. There was only one shot in this where the CGI I thought was a bit iffy, but everything else, when the way the dragons operate, the cast, the story, cinematography, I would probably give it 8 out of 10. I love it, I do, but I still think I loved it. But though, when I seen it the last time, I felt like there was more to it than what there is. I feel like it wasn't how I imagined it or remembered it the last time, but I still loved it. Still
I get what you
enjoyed it.
mean. I get what you mean by that. Like rewatching something nowadays, sometimes like, wow, I thought that was longer. What did we watch something recently, and I thought that person lasted in the movie longer. Oh, people under the stairs. I thought Roach. I thought he was like in the whole movie, and he wasn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just
I wish. Well, I also would have wished they would have that the people in the movie, the people who were like historians, the people that discovered the dragon would have given it a name. Given it would have given it such like an imposing like name that just sends shivers down your spine.
They did. Shit.
Smog.
Right?
The Deathbringer or the Black Death or something, with it being based in London, and the Black Death emanated from London. They could have called it the Black Death.
They'll ruin it. The sequel will be there's dragons that are good dragons, and they're all in Japan, so they have to come and defeat the ones in England, and they'll be riding them, and they'll ruin it.
Well, if it had been successful. If it had,
they actually do have a name for it. They do have a name for it. I forgot. It's called Kevin. It's the third head of Ghidorah.
Fucking that'll be right. Anything amazing called Kevin comes from the UK.
Hismar the Berserk Dragon. Hismar the Berserk Dragon.
So, Mr. DJ Anubis, what is coming up on the Metal Tavern Radio?
Tomorrow, Mr. Big Bad Wolf and I are going to be doing the next Kaiju Spotlight, and we'll be focusing on Kaiju King Caesar salad, and we'll be talking about him. Then on Saturday, this guy over here and I are celebrating our 50th, but it's not actually our 50th. It's just our celebration of the 50th episode that we were actually doing together, but we're going to just call it a celebration stream, live stream. And we're going to review a couple movies. In fact, this guy over here is going to be with us as well for The Substance, and then also Crimes of the Future. So a couple of body horror films that we'll review, but we're also going to do some trivia questions with some prizes going out. So I got some nice things, but obviously I want a lot of people there because I want people to have a chance and compete. We're coming up with questions, Mr. Tony and I, and then we'll get together tomorrow to go over them. But be live at 4:00 Eastern. And for anybody who wants to join us in chat, feel free to do so. Then Sunday, this guy and I are co-hosting his next live event called the Event Horizon. Movie from 1997, and we got a big panel for that, big stuff for that, and that's a lot of fun. That's gonna be a fun movie to talk about. I actually watched it not too long ago, actually, and same with Neko. So we'll be doing that at 3 p.m. Eastern my time. So again, if you guys want to be in, it's gonna be live as well.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I really got is on Monday evening. I'll be getting together with Fat Samurai Guy for my next Vintage Cult Cinema, and we're going 1998 Soldier with Kurt Russell. So that's the one we're reviewing.
I love Soldier.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. But I got hyped for seeing Events Horizon again because I watched a film called Ash that came out that didn't really get, much publicity. I watch it. It is a slow burn, but once you get into it, it was a really good sci-fi horror film. I
I
thought.
saw the trailer. I think the visuals really sold me. If not, at least the visuals look great. I don't know about the movie, but the visuals look amazing.
And it, for us, said it's an ultimate tribute to sci-fi horror. Like, there's a scene where they're all sitting around the canteen on this space station, and it feels like you're watching Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Just waiting for something to happen. But then it takes so many twists. It's like a mixture of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Thing, Alien, Event Horizon, and you just, by the end, I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on.
Mindfuck. That's always good.
But so if you haven't checked my review out for that is on the channel now. And as you know, we know what's going on with Mr. Tony of the Dead. We're celebrating his 50th episode of Ghouls of Midnight.
Yeah,
I'm going to be on that night. We know what's happening with Sci-Fi Century. We're going to be doing Events Horizon. As for me, I have just dropped what I have planned in the next month or two. I just haven't got it scheduled yet. I'm with the next retro classic movie show. We are going to be talking about another dragon. But it's going to be Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon.
Oh, let's see what you did there.
Are you going to get D for that one?
Yeah, I'm going to message him. So that is the next entry.
What day? What day of the week you plan on doing that?
Like I see, I haven't got any date yet because I'm still waiting for my schedule from work. It's kind of frustrating.
I'm just telling you, if you don't put it on a weekend, Neko's going to beat your ass. She's like a big Bruce Lee fan.
Right. Monday the...
No. Yeah. I'll tell her.
No.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You're going to get a beat down.
Definitely will make sure that's a big panel. Also, eventually, when we get around to it, the next Into the Darkness, we're going to be doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise 1 to 4. Then we're going to do the other 4. And I'm also the next Kaiju Connections. It is Bermuda Depths, which I'm looking forward to. I've never seen this, but been hyped a lot by Mr. DJ Anubis, so I'm definitely going to check that out. And also me and Mr. Tony the Dead, when we get a chance, we're going to be looking at, for the next Television Chronicles, The Terror Season 1.
That's right.
And eventually I'm going to do my top 10 mob films. So that's what's coming up. When I can get it scheduled, just just keep a look on the channel and my social media. But as always, gentlemen, this has been a blast. Thank you to my co-host, Mr. DJ Anubis, my 2 amazing guests, Mr. Tony the Dead and Sci-Fi Century. As I always say, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and we'll catch us all at the next one.